Yo, what is good, Mets Nation? Welcome back to another episode of New York Mets Talk. I'm joined by my brother, Wardy NYM. And we got a very special episode today, talk about all the latest news surrounding the New York Mets. What is going on, Tyler?
What's up, buddy? How's it going? Happy to be here as always.
Yeah, man. We are kicking off our fourth episode on New York Mets Talk. As you guys know, we're trying to do a weekly segment. The first two episodes were over on Wardy's channel. The next two episodes, as you guys can tell, is here on Mets Media. Next week, we will be over on Wardy's channel, and then we're going to do a rotation where it's going to be on Wardy's, then mine, and we're going to go back and forth. So if you guys did not know that, make sure you go subscribe to Wardy if you're not subscribed already. But I'm assuming everybody watching the stream knows who Wardy NYM is. Probably the best upcoming Mets YouTuber in the game right now. So make sure you go check out his channel if you do not already. And if you guys are new to the stream, do not forget to smash that thumbs up button if you are excited for today's episode of New York Mets Talk.
Oh, thank you, Richie. Thank you. Always too kind, my friend. You're up and coming as well, though. Trust me, you're just getting started. So I'm really excited to see what the future holds.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that a ton. Definitely appreciate all the love. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We see each and every one of you guys showing us all the love. We got a lot to talk about today, whether that's Kevin Pillar becoming the next addition to the New York Mets bench, or is it the Mets being out on Chris Bryant potentially? Are we expecting more moves before spring training? Pitchers and catchers report tomorrow. There's a lot to talk about. So shout out to everybody in the chat. Let's go Mets. You got to believe, because spring training is finally underway. There's going to be so much Mets content on both of our channels. So if you guys are not subscribed to Mets Media and Tyler, make sure you do so. So
absolutely.
With that being said, let's jump right in. So I did not make a video on this topic yet because I wanted to save it for the stream. Kevin Pillar, we signed last night. I'm assuming everybody saw Wardy's live stream last night. So I want to hear your thoughts of this, because I feel like last night I found this out. I was actually live on my Knicks channel. I was live during the Knicks-Hawks game watching Julius Randle drop 44 points and being a dog.
Monster.
But I remember somebody in the live stream right now in the chat, I recognize you. I think Ryan, he was over there on Knicks Media, and he's the one that broke the news to me on the chat. He's like, yo, Mets just signed Kevin Pillar. I'm like, really? No way. And then while I'm live, I look at my phone. I'm like, oh, snap. Let's go. So what is your initial thoughts of Kevin Pillar, and what do you expect his role to be for the New York Mets this season?
Well, first of all, I'm very happy about it. You know, luckily I was already streaming yesterday, like yourself, just talking about all the latest with the Mets, like a normal offseason special. And during the process, Pillar, first statement came out from Heyman that the Mets are really in serious talks with him, and then bam, the sign happens. And if you actually go through the live stream, which is roughly 4 hours long, you see me seesaw with all my different stances as to what I think this means. And it was mainly because of the contract situation and finding out the details. Now we have found out the details. They came out late last night after I finished streaming, I believe. So there you go. But the contract for Pillar is going to be basically either $5 million over 1 year, but has the possibility of making upwards of $10 million over 2 years. On the forefront, I'm all for Pillar. I think this is great. He's a guy that I was held back from doing a individual video on as a hypothetical option for the Mets for the outfield this offseason, because the Mets never really showed interest in him, and the Mets have constantly been pursuing other guys like Almora Jr. as they recently signed. They've been in constant talks with JBJ, especially prior to that it was Springer, as we know. So Pillar was a guy that I was waiting to actually see something outside of hypotheticals to start talking about. But he's been on my mind. He's a righty bat. The guy had a very strong short season between the Red Sox and the Rockies, so I'm not against that at all. The bat is still definitely there. Even when that isn't his strong suit, he's an average bat in there. And when it comes to his glove, don't get me wrong. At this point in his career, at 32 years of age, Kevin Pillar is not going to be a gold glover. He's never been a gold glover. He's been close. He's high-flying. They call him Superman. He's made some highlight reel catches. You know, he doesn't have exactly the same exact legs as what he did 3-4 years ago, but he's still a guy that, defensively speaking, is the best defensive center fielder when you look at the Mets currently. An overall outfielder outside of Michael Conforto, which is pretty telling of just when you look at their depth. There isn't too much there defensively. So Pillar's actually been the negative when it comes to some of his DRS, among others, his OOA or OAA, I might be saying it wrong, over the past 2 years. So not terrible, but he is a guy that the Mets would have made sense to land over the past 2 years. They've been connected with him slightly in the past when he was either put on waivers originally by the Jays or whenever he parted ways with Toronto. I wanted the Mets to toy with the idea of landing him. They didn't. When he was in San Francisco before that, I thought he was a solid option. So I'm all for Kevin Pillar. I think he adds great depth. And for a guy getting upwards of $5 million your first year, I was a little hesitant in thinking that, is he really going to be coming off the bench? But unless we see a trade happen, which again still could be possible, it looks like that Pillar is going to get a lot of at-bats. He's going to be more than strictly a bench guy. If you look at how the team's currently constructed, the DH uncertainty is still a factor into this, but even with no DH going into the season, more than likely, I would say right now, while it's not official yet, you're going to have Dom in left and you're going to have Nimmo at center. You have Amora Jr. who can be optioned to the minors if you need to start him there to start the year. That is a part of his contract. Same thing with one other player, I do believe, that they signed this offseason. So they have their options there. Pillar is a guy that realistically is going to probably come in the later innings for Dom. A lot of games, defensively speaking, assuming that they have a lead. And another option that Anthony DiComo actually talked about earlier today on Twitter. So shout out to DiComo, he's a beast. He said for the Mets how another option that a lot of people aren't thinking about is how more so later in the games, they could have it where they say, take out Alonso for Pillar, but you switch it where you have then Dom going from left to first, and then you put Pillar in the outfield. So that is another possibility that I think the Mets are going to be toying with plenty in this upcoming season, but it just adds depth more than anything. But before I get your initial thoughts on it, I just want to break down the contract because it's a lot more creative than what it originally looked like. And I didn't know about this until after my stream. But if you look at Pillar's contract, he's actually making on the forefront through the luxury tax $3.6 million for his 2021 season. But in 2022, there's a $2.9 million player option with no buyout, and there's also a $6.4 million club option with a $1.4 million buyout. So according to Mark Feinsand for MLB last night, stated how so Pillar either gets 1 year for $5 million, 2 years for $6.5, or 2 years for $10 million, depending on the option. So that is not bad whatsoever. You know, the Mets get him at a really strong chance here. We're a guy very similar to VR where he would be starting on a lot of different clubs this year. So him coming to the Mets, he's not going to be your starter as of now unless they do some type of trade. So that just adds more depth. And the Mets already have one of the best benches, one of the deeper teams in all of baseball, and a night and day difference from last season and this season.
Yeah, man, we're going to talk about the bench later on the show, and I feel like this signing really just bolsters this bench even more. I think that the Mets' perspective going into this offseason is we're going to be in on all the big fish, such as Trevor Bauer and George Springer, but we're not going to get in a bidding war. We're going to stick to our price, and if they sign for there, great. We're not going to go over where we want it to go. And now that they missed out on all of these top-line, free agents such as Springer and Bauer, we have so much flexibility financially to spread the wealth around and build this team through the depth. We need in the National League, especially with no DH as of right now, we need to get as many position players on this ball club, whether that's pinch runners, is that pinch hitters, is that bringing in defense? And I feel like Kevin Pillar is just another veteran presence for this ball club that's going to provide an immediate impact. Because is he going to be our starting center fielder on opening day? No. I think that this is a move that Mets fans should really be comfortable with Sandy Alderson and all the guys making decisions for the Mets front office and say, you know what, we're going to spread out the wealth of our money. We're going to, instead of putting all of our money into one player, now that we missed out on that player, let's go to plan B. And they had plan B all, they had it written out. It's not like this is all spontaneous. Like, oh my God, what do we do? We're scrambling. I guess let's skip Pillar. This is all part of the plan. They have a plan A, get the big fishes. Plan B, do what they're doing right now. Get as much bench pieces as possible because especially in the National League, you need it. And like you said, Albert Amora, he has a minor league option, so he can get sent down. So you never know. Jose Martinez is another guy that can get sent down. So we have a lot of flexibility.
Him and Guillorme, I think. And thank you, everyone, Matthew and others in the chat, and Eric, too. I forgot about it, honestly, because everything's just been going hectic lately. So I forgot.
Yeah, I don't blame you, man. I don't blame you. It's going to be a very fun season for the New York Mets because they can get so creative. And that contract you broke down is like when I first read it, I'm like, what? This is one of the most confusing contracts ever. But then when I understood it, I'm like, wow, this is really creative thinking for them from the Mets front office, just setting themselves up to be so flexible. And it's so awesome to have a front office that's prioritizing depth. And I feel like we know what the Mets problem has been these past couple of years. There's a lot of problems, but one of them were the injury bug. We're always injured. It feels like we're have momentum and then a star guy goes down. it is so important to have a bench, especially for the New York Mets, because if one guy gets injured, we can have somebody up. We need to have depth at every single position. Like Albert Almora, Jose Martinez, all these guys, they're going to be coming off the bench. They're going to be pinch running and all this stuff. So Kevin Pillar, like you said, he's definitely way past his prime. He is not anywhere like he was defensively speaking, but I'm pretty sure he had one of his best offensive performances last year. I think he's on the Colorado Rockies last year, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
he was split time with the Red Sox, and then he was dealt to the Rockies.
Yeah, so he's known to be a defensive-minded outfielder, and he's kind of lost a step. So now he's putting a lot of time at the plate, and that's awesome to see. So say he is a pinch hitter for our pitcher. He can be a bat. You never know what can do. And he also rakes against lefties. So he can be a guy that's going to be plugged into the lineup because we have a very left-handed outfield. So we need to get righties out there. And that's a huge part. The Mets really understand, like, okay, we have Brandon Nimmo. We have Dom Smith potentially playing left field and Michael Conforto. Those are all left-handed hitters. We need to go get defensive-minded right-handed bats. And that's exactly what they did with Albert Almora and Kevin Pillar. And it's kind of crazy that Pillar's career is kind of switching where he's not really defensive minded anymore. He's really a threat at the plate, especially against left-handed pitchers. So expect the Mets to get creative whenever there's a left-hander on the mound. You never know. They might start Kevin Pillar because we cannot have three left-handed hitters in the lineup against a left-handed pitcher. That's how baseball works. They switch based on matchups. And I feel like it just gives the Mets so much flexibility. And like, this is not a signing that's going to just change the environment. Everyone's hyping up the Mets all offseason. Like, these are the type of moves that are the intelligent, low-key ones. It's not the splashy ones. You know, some people around the MLB, when we got Steve Cohen, we expected to get JT Realmuto, George Springer, because we finally have money. We were in on them, and like I mentioned earlier, we set a price, and I love that. I love how we're just not going to outbid everybody. We're not a team like the New York Yankees where we have all this money so we can afford anybody, so nobody is going to leave out the door. I love how they're disciplined. This is how much we think you're worth. And if you're not going to pay, if you're not going to sign for this contract, then later, like, we will go to our plan B because we're very confident in all of our options. So I just think it's another really good signing for the New York Mets. It's not flashy. It's one of those really smart ones for our short-term and long-term success. And you just go down to, I feel like there's a lot more moves to be made. Would you agree, man?
Yeah, I mean, a lot is going to be interesting. I would say that the Mets, there's three potential moves, I would say, that can very well cap off their offseason. Because as of today is like the last official day of the offseason. Then with spring training actually starting to pick up tomorrow, my memory is not mistaken. I know games for spring training doesn't start until basically, the end of the month. But still, yeah, I think we're going to see moves. I honestly have a feeling we're going to see one more signing at least tonight. So that's going to be interesting. I have a feeling it will be at night. I don't think it's going to be earlier in the day, but hey, if it happens during the stream, I'm all for it. I think when you look at the Mets and what they're doing right now, they're being strategic. They're being smart. You know, everyone is starting to get fed up and upset. Yes, I understand that they didn't land Bauer, Springer. And look, you have a right to be upset at the end of the day. We were all under the belief at one way or another that the Mets had as strong of a shot as any, if not the strongest shot in landing these players. But factors went into it. The Mets were going to overpay tremendously for Bauer and gave him more money over a 3-year span than what the Dodgers did. But realistically, Bauer's viewing that as a 1-year contract still, even though I would assume he's going to do that 2-year, making $45 million with the Dodgers. But better chance to win and also being an LA kid. And then you look at Springer, they didn't want to go 6 years. The Mets are going to spend as much money as they want, but they're not going to do it. That's going to hurt their long-term future, if that makes sense. That is what's going to separate them from, say, the idea that they're just constantly every single year are going to spend like no tomorrow. That's not going to be the case. They're going to spend, don't get me wrong, but they're going to do smart spending. And what I'm really enticed by what they're doing now with the bench, amongst some other things, is it's very Tampa Rays-esque to me. It's very Oakland A's-esque. It is very LA Dodgers to an extent-esque, and even the Yankees. You know, the Mets are in an analytics group now that is light years better than what it ever has been before. And I don't think people are ready for just how amazing it's going to be, not just through spring training, what we see them toy with, but at the start of the season. You know, the Mets are a complete 180 on what they've been for the past decade, 2 decades plus, analytically speaking. This is a team that did not prioritize analytics by any stretch of the imagination versus what they currently have now. And they bring in guys like Pillar that smashes lefty pitching. Absolutely. Jose Martinez, another guy, same situation. You bring in and Almora Jr. has been solid as well. So you have all these options here where, yes, they're going to match up differently on a day-by-day basis. They're going to evaluate things by a game-by-game, inning-by-inning situational. They're going to do it to the utmost that they will, but they're also going to trust their gut instincts at the end of the day. Hopefully they don't go to the Rays like what they did in the World Series with Blake Snell and pulling him just too soon. It's stuff like that where you have to make sure that you have a balance of both analytics and the eye test and what you know as a player. Taking into the factors of foreign experiences when you're in a playoff series versus you being in a regular season series. Doesn't matter what analytics will tell you in every situation there, because especially if there's fans involved, there's a lot of different factors that go in depending on that exact kind of game. So I think both are important, and the Mets are finally utilizing just how important analytics are. And it's going to be a heavy factor into what we're seeing already with their moves and what we're going to continue to see with their moves and how they approach the start of the season. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I think a lot of people aren't really understanding that. There's a lot of moves that the Mets have made this offseason. When you look at the roster, 17 as of now of the 40-man are newly acquired players. They very well can start the season with at least 20 plus. Half that roster is going to be different when you look at the 40-man. That's insane. Absolutely insane.
That is insane. And you bring up such a great point that I feel like is very undervalued right now because we're not used to this. This is going to be the first season with a brand new ownership in place. And Steve Cohen is bringing in a business model that made him worth $14 million. Obviously, a hedge funding company and a baseball organization are not the same, but he's going to replicate a lot of the same business models, and that's getting a lot of money invested in the analytics department, a lot of money invested in the developmental department, a lot of money being invested in the farm system, a lot of resources that are going to be invested in this organization. That's not been the case because Steve Cohen understands that he needs to get a lot of new faces in this building, in the organization, to dive deep in their own little branches. And I feel like Steve Cohen built a beautiful business where, like I said, he's a multi-billionaire. He's the richest owner in baseball by like $9 billion. Like, that's absolutely mind-blowing. And I'm not talking about the money right now. I'm talking about he understands how to develop talent within a business. And I'm not even saying just players, a developmental of staff, a developmental of front office people, development of coaches. It's not just players on the field. The players in the field are the ones that are hitting the home runs, striking people out, and winning us the World Series. But there's so much, and I can't even emphasize how much there is happening behind the scenes that us fans, we're not aware of. Like, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We're not in the building with Sandy Alderson when he's on the phone with all these trying to make these trades, or it's Steve Cohen interviewing all these people behind the scenes to be our head of the player development, head of the farm system, head of the analytics. It's such a huge aspect to building a prosperity organization, especially one that's going to sustain success. So I'm glad that you brought it up because it's definitely something that Mets fans in any sport, really, because we're not exposed to it. We don't see it. It's all behind the scenes. So I'm excited to see what kind of change he brings because he's going to invest so much money into so much different resources that we've never been accustomed to. And I feel like it's going to take a little time. I don't think we're not going to see the results right away. I think it's going to take, all right, we're going to get everybody brand new in the building this year. And then Steve Cohen's going to see, okay, which people that I hired that I really love, which people that I don't really like. I'm going to fire those people. I'm going to develop those people. And it's just going to be a very healthy organization that the Mets are trying to brew on and off the field. So that's my little rant, or not a rant, but my little take on the Mets ownership. Would you agree with that?
Exactly right.
It's just like, I'm so excited because, as you guys know, I'm a Jets, Knicks, Mets fan, and I've always said throughout my life, the problem with all three of these teams are the owners. They're not going to be good until they get new owners. Well, let's check the Mets off because they got new owners, and everything I just preached about is what a new owner brings to the organization, and that's what I'm so excited to see. But it's something that we're never going to be exposed to. That's the thing. You can't just expect it to happen overnight. It's something that happens behind the curtain. So let's move on to another topic.
Sure.
That I feel like the Mets are still not done. As we said, there's still moves to be made. And this is a reliever that we might be interested in after the unfortunate injury of Seth Lugo, which we'll get into eventually. Should the Mets sign Trevor Rosenthal?
Is the sky blue? Rosenthal is a guy they absolutely need to prioritize in my mind. It was funny because I did a video on it right after Lugo got hurt, because I was like, the first guy that came to my mind for bullpen options at that point was Trevor Rosenthal. And I also didn't know nearly as much about his game either, so I wanted a good reason to deep dive him And then in the process, the following day, we see that the Mets have been linked to him. Now the Mets have actually reportedly shown interest. So Rosenthal, 30 years of age, right-hand reliever, spent the past season with both the Royals and the Padres, was dealt to the Padres as the Padres were making their playoff run, as we know. And in 9 appearances during the regular season with the Padres since being acquired from the Royals this past year, gave up 0 runs in 9 innings. So closer at this point in his career, can both close and be a setup man. In 2019, splitting time with the Nationals and one other team. I'm just blanking on the other one on the top of my head. It looks like a caveman at the time. He had a long beard. He had long hair. It's so funny how different he looked. I don't know what happened in 2019 with him, honestly, but he had a 13.2 or so ERA between those two teams and over 20 appearances. So, yeah, not great in regards to 2019. Was by far the biggest and worst year overall he's had, but he bounced back tremendously in the short season, worked on some mechanics from his game. And as long as the Padres don't prioritize bringing Rosenthal back, I think the Mets have as good of a shot as ever to land him. My only worry is honestly the Padres to an extent, because if the Padres do in fact show that, yes, we heavily want you back for this upcoming year, we think you'd be great. If I'm Rosenthal, I would awfully be enticed to go back to the Padres, seeing what they've done this offseason. So I can't fault him if he ends up resigning there. I just hope for the Mets' sake that they can really try to pull this one out, because when you look at the options, it's Rosenthal, and then there's a decent gap. You know, they've shown interest in other guys like Jeremy Jeffries, for instance, another solid bullpen arm, but has been inconsistent in his career, like a lot of relievers that ERAs up and down like a roller coaster every couple of years. But Rosenthal would be a great ad for the Mets, and with Lugo out, he should be even that more of a top priority.
Yeah, man, it's very unfortunate that we find out that Seth Lugo will not be able to throw for the next 6 to 8 weeks or something like that. Devastating injury, but at least they found that now and not in the middle of the season, because he will definitely, at least we hope, be back sometime in the middle of the year, whether that's late May, early June, July. He will be back eventually, and Seth Lugo is a very important piece to this bullpen. So I think it's a no-brainer, like you said. I think they need to be in the bullpen market. Trevor Rosenthal makes so much sense. So let's see what they can do, and I hope that they get it done, because we are a team that can compete in the NL East, and this division is so competitive. I mean, you can look at every team and you get worried.
This is going to be the best division in baseball.
It really is, and it's so unfortunate. But it's like even the Miami Marlins, like last year, they were going into the year like the worst team in baseball. They have so many no-names, and they get 20 people on the COVID list, and then they win so many games. And I'm like, yo, who are these Marlins? Like, relax. Like, let us chill. What are you doing? Got me so upset. I'm like, can you just let the Mets win? Like, why are we struggling against this team?
And this is going to be telling, not to get on a different topic, but just to add, this season what will be huge for the Mets is we're going to more than likely see them take advantage of the lesser competition, whether that gap is small or big, especially when you're going up against the quote unquote bottom feeders in the league. The Marlins should be the last team in the division. They might really make a good run and maybe give a team like the Phillies a run for their money, but for the most part, there shouldn't be too much from the Marlins. But they are a team that every single time the Mets match up, they should not lose one series against them this year. And this is a year for the Mets where if they want to win the division, they need to make sure that they take full advantage of every single, bottom feeder they go up against. We can't have where we're continuing to lose the series against the Detroit Tigers, for instance, and these other subpar below 500 teams. That's not what they can be doing. But I think this year we're actually going to finally see that come to more fruition. If they lose a series rarely here and there, okay. But realistically, when it talks about winning streaks, you need to make sure that you're putting the most effort out there, regardless of who you're going against. Do not slide up 1 second. You do not give up 1 second. If you're winning by 10, you continue to go and try to get 20 runs. It should not stop you. So I think we're going to see that this year with the Mets, and that is, in my mind, what is unbelievably exciting about them outside of all the other obvious factors.
Yeah, and the reason why I bring up a team like the Marlins, I don't think they're a threat to win the division. They're just a team that we're going to be going up against, and they can definitely come away with winning some series. And that brings up a point. Like, the Marlins are just an example of a team that we need to win against, like, especially because they're a divisional opponent. We should take care of business with them. I'm not expecting us to sweep them. I'm not expecting us to win every single series, but we need to take care of business against our division rivals, the Phillies, the Nationals. The Braves are definitely the favorite because they've won the division the past couple of years. And it's going to be a very tight division, but we will see, because the Mets are up there. There's people projecting the Mets to win the division, which I'm not a fan of. I'd rather be the underdog than everybody hyping us up too much, because that's what I've been used to my whole life. But if you guys are new to the stream and you guys did not smash that thumbs up button, please make sure you do so. We got 113 people watching right now with
Let's do
37
100
likes.
likes, guys. If you haven't smashed those buttons, make sure you do. Help Richie out. Help him grow his channel. Subscribe to him if you haven't. Trust me, him and I, respectively, are going to be coming out with great Mets content, both together and separate all throughout the season, not just spring training, throughout the season and then beyond. So, guys, make sure to hit all those buttons if you haven't already. Great things are coming for both of our channels, respectively, and together.
Yeah, appreciate that. Tyler's channel is down below in the description if you guys did not know that. So make sure you check out his channel. But again, I don't really need to plug you because I think everyone over here is subscribed to my guy Wardy. Also, I got a link tree down below of a link to all of my YouTube channels. If you're a Jets fan or a Knicks fan or an NBA fan, NFL fan, I got like 7 YouTube channels. So if you're interested, go check it out. We're already at 46 likes. Thank you guys so much for running up the like button. Let's see if we can get this up to 100. You guys are awesome. So let's get into another topic. Let's just stay on the same topic, which is Seth Lugo's injury and how that's going to affect this team, because definitely the injury bug is already hitting us. I feel like we learn a lot about injuries right when spring training comes around. I think last year we found out that Syndergaard is getting Tommy John surgery around this time. So hopefully Lugo's the last one that we hear. But what are your thoughts of Seth Lugo going down, and how do you think that's going to impact the Mets, especially like early on in April?
Yeah, I mean, it sucks. There's no other way to look at it. Lugo is a crucial part of this team. He's been one of their most overlooked and most underrated players outside of the Mets organization for numerous years now. He came in and went from the get-go being a dominant guy that both as a reliever and very solid in the rotation, and did a lot for the Mets during the times this past season when they need him in the rotation. And he's a guy that's just such a great overall player. You can either have him as your closer, a setup man, a multiple inning guy from, say, 7 to 8. You can also have him as your starter as well. He can get you 4 or 5 innings even. He can do so much for you. And he's still in the prime of his career, has the nastiest spin rate on that curveball. I still love that 12-6. I just can't get over it. But he's a guy that, in my mind, is crucial to the Mets, so it sucks to lose him. No doubt. Luckily, it's not an end-all situation. From what he said, it could have been a career-ending injury, depending on what would have happened, worst-case scenario. So he feels that he's still very much, positive and up in his spirits, knowing that he's going to be out for the next 6 weeks, and he's going to start his pitching program. And then from there, it's all going to be up to him, his body, and the Mets making sure they don't rush him back to dictate when he will return. So the first month, at least, without them, with Lugo not with the team, more than likely, is going to hurt. But again, it only gives them more incentive to make sure that they address the bullpen to the best of their abilities. That way that they are prepared. Because as we know, the Mets have dealt with injuries plenty. I don't think that they're going to be any as injury plagued, knock on wood, as they've been in recent years. But I do believe that we're going to see a situation where, the Mets are going to very well be healthier, but injuries naturally come. Not just in the bullpen, but with position players, the rotation, the catcher. Everyone normally gets hurt at some point. So the Mets adding this depth and continuing to add it, they are not done this offseason, is what makes me feel so confident about them more than anything. Outside the Lindor and Carrasco deal and whatever else is going to inevitably come for the Mets within the coming days to a week or so. Lugo sucks to lose him for sure, but I don't think it's an end-all situation for the Mets. They just need to make sure that they getting a replacement and really just adding into that bullpen regardless. As we know that they have tried trading away one of, if not both of, Betances and Familia. So if you're going to do that as well, you're only doing that because you want to add into the bullpen, but more reliable guys. And I think the Mets are going to continue to do just that.
Yeah, man. Obviously, Seth Lugo is a huge blow because he's one of the most underrated bullpen relievers in the entire MLB, in my opinion. He was a guy that you're very lucky to have Seth Lugo coming out of the pen. Say, DeGrom or somebody that pitches 6 solid innings, 7 solid innings. We need that bridge guy to set himself up for a closer, and he even closed some games. So Seth Lugo is definitely a huge blow, and it's time to see what this Mets front office can do, and they adapt, and they realize, all right, let's see. How can we replace Lugo for the short term? Is it Rosenthal? Is it somebody else? Is it a trade? But they definitely need to go and bolster the bullpen because that's probably the weakest part of this team right now, because Edwin Diaz is a huge wild card. We don't know what we're getting from Edwin Diaz. Seth Lugo is our best reliever, and he's injured. So without Seth Lugo, now the bullpen is not looking good. It turned upside down. Justin Wilson is no longer in the Mets radar. He's finishing a deal with the New York Yankees. So it's tough. It's tough. I don't know what they're going to do, but I have all the trust in the world in this Mets front office to really go out there, get really creative, get a trade done, and see what they can do, because they got to really bolster that bullpen, because we're not winning games without a good bullpen.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I just want to answer a few comments I'm seeing in the chat before I get on to my response here. Hunter Bornstein asks, or Stein, I apologize. In-season game streams, he's referring that to probably both of us. I know that for me, that's definitely something I plan to do for certain games. And I think that's something maybe you and I can do together
For sure.
as part of our weekly thing. We can probably make a routine where it's like, it's not going to be every game, but it's going to be, this day of the week, weekly, where, for the most part, as long as there's a game following on that day for the Mets almost every week, we'll probably do something along those lines, I'm sure, outside of anything else. And I also want to add on to people talking about here, just trade proposals I see in regards to the Bryant stuff. So we'll get to that soon. And yeah, no, that's about it. Again, thank you all so much to everyone that is chiming in. I really appreciate you. Make sure to smash that like button if you haven't. Help us get to 100 likes, guys. I hope you are enjoying the stream. And also make sure to subscribe to my man Richie here if you haven't already. He's doing great stuff here on the channel and all of his other channels.
Appreciate that, bro. And yeah, we're definitely going to do in-game streams. I go live for every single Jets game, but that's because it's once a week. Over on my Knicks channel, I don't go live every single game because they're so frequent. But here on Mets Media, definitely going to go live. Don't know, not every game, but me and Tyler are definitely going to discuss when we can go live together. Hopefully we can. The only problem with going live together is one of us might be a little ahead of each other.
But for sure.
It's baseball, so we'll make it work. We're definitely going to do New York Mets talk every week throughout the season. And maybe we can do a New York Mets talk episode and do a Mets Media Wardy NYM stream during a game once a week as well. So expect both of us to be streaming during games because those are the best. Live play-by-play reactions is awesome. We can all sit here and watch the games together. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk about what were we? Oh, yeah.
Shoot.
The pros and cons
Go ahead.
to having J.D. Davis starting at third base. So as we know, the Mets are reportedly out on Chris Bryant.
I mean, that's according to Jed Hoyer. Did we didn't touch on that here, right? We didn't.
No,
do that
so
yet.
we could touch on that as well. Do you want to start it off?
Yeah, sure. All right, guys. So you probably all know by now, but through Jed Hoyer, which I believe is the GM for the Cubs, if my memory is not mistaken, after Epstein has stepped down, Hoyer has stated how he has not been in any discussions for a trade for any player for a little bit now. So then a reporter asked him, so what do you say that all the stuff with the Mets is inaccurate? And then he said, that's what I'm saying. Yes. Now, granted, this is the same Jed Hoyer, like any other GM, where when you're toying with the idea of parting ways with one of your cornerstone, MVP caliber players in your lap, that's a pending UFA at the year's end, the last thing you're going to do is tell the media, hey, yes, we're actively trying to part ways with this guy, unless it's Bryant the one asking and demanding a trade. That never happens. The last thing you were ever going to see Hoyer say is, yes, we're trying to deal him and something hasn't happened. And with spring training literally starting up in a day or so for them, it's more than likely them trying to make sure that the clubhouse is stable at least. And look, if the asking price is true and the Mets end up not doing the deal with Bryant, in part because the Cubs are demanding Alvarez and the Mets are laughing off the idea of parting ways with a top 7 prospect for a rental, that's on Hoyer. So I really think that the Mets have, in fact, had talks with Bryant. How deep have they been? Only they know at the end of the day. But talks have been there because this has been connected prior to the Lindor connection, after them landing him, and now after. So take that as you will. I think the Mets are still very much interested in a third base option, but according to Hoyer, he doesn't think it'll happen. But how many times I've seen so many times in sports where they say that, we're not dealing a guy or let alone just a player overall. And then within the next 48 hours or to a week, that player is dealt. The last thing they're going to do is normally openly tell you that, yes, we're trying to deal this player. It's a bad look on the franchise, especially when spring training's coming up. And if you don't deal Bryant, then that's more of salt in the wound, if you will, with a relationship that's coming to an end.
Yeah, so that's the update on Chris Bryant. It's going to be a very intriguing, it's spring training starts so soon, like tomorrow, everybody reports there. And this is where all these trades will start happening. I feel like the Mets are not done, but there's definitely a report out there that's saying Chris Bryant is off the table. But Tyler brings up an excellent point where you should not read too much into these reports because you never know what's going on behind the scenes. So speaking of Chris Bryant, we're going to go back to the J.D. Davis conversation because if we don't get Chris Bryant, which seems like very unlikely, we will have J.D. Davis starting at third base. So we want to go over the pros and cons of having J.D. And I'll start off. So J.D. Davis is an offensive guy. He is known to be really good at the plate. He's young. He has a very energetic bat. He was one of those surprises for the Mets when we acquired him. He was just a spark. Oh my gosh, JD Davis has pop off the bat. He can hit the ball, he can go yard opposite field. That tells you how much power he has. He's very clutch. He's had a couple, walk-offs. Very good hitter at the plate. His problem is defense. I feel like this Mets organization right now, they want to prioritize defense, especially with the acquire of Francisco Lindor, because he's a defensive juggernaut at shortstop. So the question with all of these third base rumors and speculations is, we should definitely improve defensively at third base if we want to have Francisco Lindor, because that will be an absolutely amazing defensive infield if we can replace JD. Is JD that bad of a defensive guy? No, he's not terrible. He's not a liability out there, but he's definitely average, maybe a little below average. He's not a guy that's going to be spectacular. He can definitely throw guys out. He has a cannon of an arm at times, but he's a little inconsistent over there. I feel like that's the pros and cons. I think, the positive is definitely his pop at the plate, and the negatives is, the defense. So I think that JD Davis, if he's our starting third baseman coming opening day, it's not the end of the world. I think a lot of Mets fans are honed in on trading for a star third baseman, where we have to realize that JD Davis is a really good player. He's young, he's energetic, and I feel like he could provide a lot of pop in this deep offense for the Mets. What's your pros and cons?
Okay, so I'm going to just answer you here, and I'm looking forward to when we do this more often, how I respectfully disagree with the slight notion you made.
Yeah, go for it.
Just on JD, because yes, there's positives to him. JD Davis, when he came to the Mets, one of the fine moves by Brody Van Wagner, few and far in between. But JD with his bat, 2019 really stood out of nowhere. The guy hit for average, he hit for on base. He was tremendous when he wasn't in a solidified role with the Mets yet. And that's really, as the season progressed, they were trying to find a way to actually have him in the lineup because of how fantastic his bat was becoming. That's why you have him in the left field. That's why you have him at third base. You're 20, even at first base at times too. But 2020 was a different story. The bat slowed down. Granted, that was a short season. Do I think he would have picked up the numbers in a more consistent role? Yes, I do. I'm really not going to give him any fault for his offensive numbers in 2020. I'm honestly not. But his defensive numbers, I will give a gripe to, because they only fell down tremendously, even further than his utilization from the 2019 season. If you look at him strictly on third base, I've talked about him plenty, but his DRS has not been good. He was on pace to be the worst defensive third baseman in all baseball through that 60-game season. So in my mind, I think that JD Davis is more of a liability than maybe what you believe it is, only because of the Mets do not need to have a crazy, amazing bat. If JD, and I know we talked about this before, but if JD goes somewhere else and the Mets steal him, and say it's a Turner or a Daniel Murphy situation where he ends up really becoming consistent with his bat still, right? Really blossoms, upwards of 30 bombs, upwards of 90 RBIs, right? Okay. Yes, that would suck to lose him, but at the end of the day, the Mets can handle losing a bat like JD because of how much offense they currently have in their lineup. And ultimately, if they do part ways with JD, they're going to acquire a third baseman more than likely that is at least on his level offensively or close to, and defensively is far above where he currently stands at the age of 28 now. So there's pros to JD. I love JD. I would love to have him in a bench role. I think that is the best fit for him right now because of his defensive woes until he can really prove himself. And I know it's a double-edged sword, if you will, because if in order for him to prove himself, normally you need more playing time. You either do all the work in the offseason and then you show it when you're on the field. But for a Mets team that is trying to prioritize winning now, that is not in a full rebuild, I'm not sure how much of a leash they're going to be willing to give JD. And that definitely goes in hand with why they've been toying with the idea of dealing him this offseason. So I think that defensively, he is an issue. I think Lindor, however, is going to help him. If he does, in fact, start at third base to start the season, which, again, I don't see how it makes sense for the Mets that are trying to prioritize defense. Even with having a great bench, it's like, okay, are you really going to be constantly doing this seesaw when not just worrying about Dom in the outfield as it is, when Nimmo's still having his woes, hoping that he has a better year this year with better training this offseason that we've seen. But then you're also having JD. Like, are you really going to do that kind of seesaw for three major positions all throughout the year? I don't think the Mets are going to put that much risk. It just doesn't add up to me. But if he does start the season for whatever reason, all I can hope for is that, one, his bat continues to show out, which I think it will. He'll be seeing better pitches, might I add, because this lineup just got a hell of a lot deeper offensively with Lindor and now McCann in the lineup. So he's going to be probably more so in the middle to the bottom of the order, and he's going to be seeing some better stuff for sure. And defensively, he's going to have one of, if not arguably, the best shortstop next to him in Lindor in the entire game that spreads the infield like no tomorrow. He's going to help out JD tremendously at third. No matter who's at third, Lindor is going to take a lot of weight off their back. So you can make that argument that to an extent, having Ahmad Rosario alongside JD at third for the past season and a half hasn't necessarily helped his defensive game either. So I can agree they go in hand with each other to an extent.
Yeah, man, I agree, to be honest. I definitely think he is, the pros and cons is the positive is his bat. The negative is his glove. That's what it comes down to with JD Davis. And I don't think it's going to, I don't know. It's all these speculations. We don't know what could happen. How is he going to pair with Francisco Lindor on the field? Is he even going to be our starting third baseman? We don't know. There's a lot of things going into it, but I definitely believe that the Mets front office are currently in the market to acquire a better third baseman defensively, because Sandy Alderson has said over and over again they want to prioritize defense. And like you said, if we're thinking of, if there's no DH, Dom Smith left field, Nimmo center field, and then JD Davis third base, those are three really important positions to have defense. And right there, those are three liabilities. Brendan Nimmo, like you said as well, he's training his ass off. He's trying to get better defensively because he's such a positive at the plate because of his on-base percentage is ridiculous. His eye is like the best of baseball. And then Dom Smith, he's a first baseman at left field. That's a below average liability. So, and then having JD at third, we're not the best defensive team right now. So we upgraded defensively at catcher. We upgraded tremendously at shortstop with Francisco Lindor. And I do love Jeff McNeil at second. I feel like he's a wizard anywhere he plays. He's
amazing.
He's a Swiss Army knife. He could play anywhere. And then I'm expecting Pete Alonso to have a breakout year defensively this year, because I feel like a lot of people don't know this, but Pete really works his ass off about defense. He always says his goal is to be a Gold Glove winner. And yes, every single player should have goals. Every single player says they can do this, but they'll never get there. But I really believe Pete Alonso has the mental makeup and has the determination and the work ethic in order to be a two-way player at the plate and defensively. So we will see about Pete Alonso, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see what this Mets team, and it's just spring training, baby.
I know. Yeah, Pete is going to continue to surprise a lot of people with his defense. That I feel
agree.
Confident in. I really do.
That goes right into our spring training preview. So they announced the lineup. Well, not the lineup, the spring training roster.
And shout out to my guy John here at Hot Take Hockey, another big time YouTuber. Shout out to John. Thank you for being here, buddy. I appreciate you. John, I actually meant to hit you up. I apologize I didn't, because I saw your rant about the Leafs yesterday. Oh my God, that was a tough pill to swallow, I'm sure. But I appreciate you being here, my guy. Hype in the chat for John as always. I know him. We have a good connection from my hockey channel as well. But really good guy. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure John actually has done a a raid on a bunch of my live streams.
Oh
where,
yeah,
he sends in a bunch. He sends in a bunch of people, and I went over, and he's a good guy. Good guy. Shout out to you. Thank you for tuning in, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you, John.
So spring training preview, man.
Yeah. Well, what are we talking about?
So we have a lot of people that are going to be playing, whether that's the Brett Batty, is it Pete Crow Armstrong? We got a lot of people that's going to be playing. I love watching our prospects. What do you expect from spring training? And it's just a little preview. Tomorrow, the pitchers and catchers report. It's going to be a really nice, refreshing time to just watch the Mets get back and watch them work out, watch the Mets social media post content about everybody. And we're going to get a lot of press conferences, and we got games, starting in a week or two. So what are your just thoughts and your energy going into spring training?
Oh, I'm excited. I feel like I haven't even been able to absorb it yet, because this offseason has been insane. It's not even done yet, technically, right? It ends starting tomorrow. But with the Mets involved with these other player options still to address this team, I haven't even been able to process the idea that, yes, spring training starts up this week. We finally have it. We have so many guys. As of right now, guess how many players the Mets have invited to spring training? Take a guess without you. I'm assuming you don't know the number.
70?
72. The most you can have is 75.
Damn.
So there are 3 spots left for the Mets, which means they very well could be having those spots for guys that they say acquire. I will say this, however, it is kind of funny considering the fact that they have 3 spots left. And in my mind, there are 3 ideal moves the Mets still have to make for this offseason. Now, if they deal any of their own players away currently on the roster, then that's going to free up some spots as well. But I do find it interesting. I'm excited. There's so many. We're going to see battles this spring training that we haven't seen with the Mets in a long time. And I'm really excited for that. Between the bullpen is literally going to be a massacre. There are going to be guys competing for jobs left and right there. So many different options and a lot of really fun names to look at. There's one guy in my mind that I think is really going to stand out to people. His name is Sam McWilliams. So do your research on him. He looks like he might be the biggest wild card for the Mets as a bullpen option. But when you look at the infield, the Mets have all their options too. The outfield, they're unbelievably deep now. When you're talking about guys that are, either AAA or going to be on the team on a bench role. So they have a lot of options, and they obviously have Brett Beatty that's going to be in attendance. You have other guys like Matthew Allen, the Mets' best pitching prospect that looks like a stud is going to be there. I'm assuming Alvarez is going to be there. You have a lot of different young upcoming prospects along with guys that very well could be toying with the team either to start the season or at some point. So I'm excited for it. I really am.
Yeah, I love watching the prospects in spring training because we don't really get to see a lot of the prospects because we're so focused on Mets during the season where no one really pays attention to AAA, AA as much. But this is a time where we get to see the future of the Mets. And this is my favorite time of the year, to be honest, because the weather is going to start turning and it's going to be starting to get warm out and the baseball's starting and everything just feels great going into March. And then my birthday comes around, which is opening day, actually. My birthday's April 1st.
Oh, so perfect timing.
When you're watching the Mets, think of me, everybody. Happy birthday, Richie. But
yes, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I just think it's exciting to watch the prospects. I remember Pete Alonso's first at-bat.
Against the Nationals.
Yeah, in spring training, he hit a nuke. And I'm like, yep, book it.
Oh, your spring training, my bad. I thought you meant opening day.
No, yeah, his first at-bat spring training. And that was like my first time really like seeing Pete Alonso live because I didn't really watch any live AAA games, AA games or whatever. And I'm like, all right, Pete Alonso, there's a lot of hype around you. Let's see what you can do. He hits a bomb. I'm like, oh, rookie of the year, 100%. And he won Rookie of the Year that year. So I know my stuff. Well, obviously, anybody could have predicted that after that nuke. But it's just an exciting time. Alvarez, we get to see what he can do. We feel like he could be our future catcher after James McCann because I feel like James McCann's a perfect bridge for if we hold on to Alvarez, which it looks like we will because when the Mets are trying to research into trading for a star third baseman, whether that's Chris Bryant, Matt Chapman, or Suarez, it seems like all the teams want Alvarez. And the Mets are reluctant to trade him, which is such a good move because a catching prospect like Alvarez is a very rare thing to have. Catchers are a hot commodity in baseball, and to have a top catching prospect is a really good luxury. And I feel like James McCann, having him on a 4-year, $40 million contract is going to be a perfect bridge. We're going to have Alvarez still in the minors, and then 2 or 3 years down the line, we could bring up Alvarez to be the backup. And then after the 4 years contract, or even before that, if McCann doesn't work out in 4 years, we can move on from him, and then he could be our future catcher for a long time. I like him. He's a defensive-minded, but he's also really good at the plate, Alvarez, so I'm excited to see what he can do. I really want to see Pete Crow Armstrong, Beatty. I'm just excited. I wish we could watch Jarred Kelenic, but sucks. I'm not going to talk about that.
I've yet to do a live stream without that man's name, involved. Either that or Trout. Both those in every single live stream, doesn't matter what the topic is, they're always brought up. But again, you're right. Don't worry. The Mets will sign Kelenic to like a $350 to $400 million 10-year deal when he's 26. Don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry. Jarred Kelenic's a future Met, guys. We're gonna give him the richest contract ever. Don't you worry. But again,
but to summarize, just to finish off talking about spring training, yes, very exciting. I know that you'll be doing content related to spring training. I'm sure I will too. A lot of different guys to break down. Again, the battles are going to be the biggest thing. A lot of these guys, because of just how deep this Mets team is, within their organization too, in the bullpen, there are a lot of names that stand out as guys that, in my mind, are going to surprise some people that very well could be cracking this bullpen or getting close to. And same thing in regards to the outfield depth. There's just a lot of different options for them. And that, for me personally, makes that really exciting outside of looking at the prospects. Just seeing all these battles, position battles are so much fun. So it's something that we don't get to see too often with this team, I feel like. So this is going to be very telling of basically who makes the cut. And throughout the spring training, maybe we're going to see some more moves happen too, which will be very enticing as well.
Yeah, so we touched on a little prospects already, but I want to talk about the Mets prospects. So like I said, we did touch up on them, but who really jumps out to you that think is going to be part of the future and somebody that you really hope that the Mets do not trade away? and we're hoping that could be the future of the Mets.
Are we talking about a current player or prospect? Prospect?
Yeah.
Current prospect, I don't want to see them trade away. Crow Armstrong. Crow Armstrong is a guy in my mind that it would make no sense for them. When it comes to the infield prospects, I don't want to see Mauricio or Beatty go, but I know that depending on the deal, it would make more sense for them. Armstrong is a guy that when you look at the Mets depth out there in the outfield, there isn't a whole lot. Yes, they brought Khalil Lee, who I think is going to surprise some people going into the season. He may very well even crack the roster, even though it's going to be hard.
Real quick about Khalil Lee. I did not see his name on the spring training invite. Is that because
he should be? He should be. Yeah, I would double check it. I'm almost certain he's there.
Okay, good. Because I was a little worried.
Yeah, no, I'm almost certain that he's there. But yeah, no, outside Khalil Lee, there really isn't a whole lot there. And Crow Armstrong is a guy that is projected from reports I've seen to basically be that next leadoff hitter, if you will. Kind of like what Brandon Nimmo is now, but more defensively strong wherever he's positioned out there. Is a guy that's not going to hit as much for power right now, even though he can obviously get stronger over time, but is going to hit for consistency. McNeil-esque, just an on-base machine is what Armstrong looks like he'll be, and a very strong glove in that outfield. So he's a guy I do not want to see go because when you're looking at the depth for the Mets currently, when it comes to within the organization for prospects, there isn't a whole lot there outfield-wise. So that is exactly why I don't want to see him be parted ways with.
Yeah, I think Armstrong, we would not have drafted him if we still had Jarred Kelenic. I feel like they're replacing him for him. So hopefully Armstrong is not going to be packaged in any deals, and he could be our new Kelenic. I don't know if he's going to be Kelenic is still in the minors, so we don't even know how good he's going to be, even though he's the fourth best prospect in the MLB. But still, I feel like Armstrong is definitely somebody I'm excited for. Brett Beatty at third base, I think that he's, we have a really big hole at third base right now. We're always talking about, JD Davis, is he your guy? Are we trading for somebody? Hey, maybe they really see something in our prospect. He can be called up, and I don't think he's ready this year by any means, but I'm excited to see what he can do because that's definitely a prospect that we're going to look at. Third base is a premier position in the MLB, and I think he's a guy that I'm excited for. And Mauricio as well. He's another guy that he's, I think, number one, right? In our ball club? I believe so.
Is Mauricio the top-ranked prospect? He might be.
I always looked at it and I'm like, wow, at the time we had Ahmed Rosario and Jimenez, and then I'm like, and our top prospect is another shortstop. So
yeah, no, I'm not sure exactly where Mauricio is ranked. He might be number one or close to. I'm honestly blanking who's number one currently for the Mets. I'd have to just pull it up in a second.
I think it was Mauricio and then Alvarez 1 and 2, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
But yeah, we got a lot of good prospects. I'm excited to see Khalil Lee. If he's going to be somebody that we're going to develop or trade, we will see. But there's a lot of things to be excited for with this Mets organization heading into spring training. I noticed that we got 150 people in the stream right now. Welcome in, everybody. If you are new to the stream, make sure you smash that thumbs up button. We're at 68 likes. The goal in the stream is to hit 100 likes while we are live. So if you guys did not smash that thumbs up button, please make sure you do so. And if you already did, thank you very much. Greatly appreciated.
Yeah, shout out to everyone in the chat. I just want to say that quick. I recognize most of these names. William, Lefty, Butta, everybody. Appreciate you guys all being here as always. Ryan, Elliot, Hayden, how's it going? Matthew, of course, Brooklyn Mets, and everybody else. If I missed you, I apologize. But again, I really, really appreciate all you guys being here. It really does mean a lot. I hope you're enjoying the stream.
Yeah, shout out to everybody in the chat. I really appreciate everybody coming in. I know most of you guys are very loyal subscribers to Wardy because he's been killing it on Mets YouTube. He made it to his channel in like December
1st.
December 1st, and he's come a long way. He just hit 5K and over it, and he's been killing it. So I appreciate everybody tuning into Mets Media because I know that Tyler puts a lot of energy into his streams. He goes live for like 8 hours at a time because he's an absolute beast. But
I don't even know how I do it. The chat keeps me going. That's for sure.
I was about to say, like, everybody in the chat, you're the reason that we give so much energy to, just keep going. Just keep going. We look at the chat. We have conversations. Everybody's here, and we love everybody in the chat because you guys are the engines of our channels. As if it wasn't for everybody hitting the thumbs up button, if it wasn't for everybody hitting the subscribe button, if it wasn't for everybody constantly hyping up the chat, that we would not be where we are today because Tyler and I, we're here for one reason, and that's to give you guys the best content possible for what we are passionate in because we know everybody is just as passionate as us, and we're just here to voice our opinions and just have a very healthy community, healthy environment, and just enjoy baseball, because baseball season's back. I feel like this is the best time of the year because, like I mentioned earlier, the winter's starting to die down. The crappy weather is going to be away. And then all of a sudden, April's here. And the Mets better be good. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, they'll be good.
Loyal to Richie. Shout out to Dylan. He's always on every single live stream of mine. And I don't even think he's a New York sports fan. So shout out to Dylan. You're the man, brother.
Awesome. What's up, Dylan? And
he's a big Miami Heat fan. I know that.
Yeah, no, again, shout out to everyone. Brad, thank you for the kind words again. I appreciate you all being here, guys. And also shout out to you before we get on to our next topic for just surpassing 5K subs on your Knicks media. Definitely helps with how well Randall balled out last night. So shout out to you. I hope you that channel continues to blow up. I know that you started kind of around the same time I did with my Mets channel too. So we're growing at a very similar pace. I love to see it.
Yeah, it's crazy actually, the timing of how Wardy and I met each other. For those interested, we'll talk about the story real quick. So I started Mets Media the day of Steve Cohen's first press conference interview. And for those that do know, I have a Jets Media channel. There's the Jets helmet. That was my first YouTube channel that I got monetized on and I was like really into. And I always had the back of my head, I'm going to make a Mets and a Knicks channel one time. I just don't know when. Whenever the timing's right, I'll do it. And then while I'm watching the Steve Cohen press conference, I'm like, all right, I think now's the time for Mets Media because this man is hyping me up. So I create a video. It's my first video here on my channel about me breaking down Sandy Alderson and Steve Cohen talking about their Mets. And Tyler actually commented on that video saying like, yo, like, where can I reach out to you? I would love to contact you. And then he shot me a DM on Twitter. And then Tyler and I hop on a Zoom call. We meet each other for the first time. He's like, yo, I have a hockey channel. I'm a diehard Mets fan. I'm thinking of making a Mets channel too. Like you're doing everything I want to do right now. Like, let's do it. So then we discussed, we're like, yo, let's ride. And then he created Wardy NYM. And then at the time, it's funny because I made my Knicks channel 2 weeks later. And then that's when the Knicks started blowing up. So I started to not really put a lot of energy in the Mets because I had the Knicks channel as my little baby. And my Knicks channel just hit 5,000 subscribers last night. Wardy hit 5,000 subscribers a couple days ago. So it's crazy that Wardy and I both created a channel literally, like 3 months ago, and it's already at 5K subs. So thank you to everybody. Appreciate all the love. Mets fans, you guys are awesome. New York fans in general, man. We're the greatest city in the world. We are the greatest fan bases everywhere. I don't even care if you're a Yankees fan, even though I hate the Yankees. New York fans are the best. So thank you everybody
that was a great line, you know. Like I don't even care if you're a Yankees fan, even though I hate the Yankees, you know, New York is the best. No, you're right. You're right. You know, I live in PA, but you know, the majority of my family's from New York. I'm originally from there. You know, I will always be like live and breathe that type of, you know, New York lifestyle, especially with sports. There's nothing better in my mind. As hectic as it can be, as toxic as it can be at times, it is also the polar opposite when things are going right. And I'm just all for it. I really am. So
yeah, I mean, you're a Rangers fan. You're a New York fan at heart.
Oh, for sure, dude. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's a good segue now for us to get on to our next segment. When you say?
Yeah, for sure. Julio, shout out to you. Thank you so much.
Shout out Julio. Yep, love Julio.
Follow me on Jets and Knicks. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that a ton. So let's see. What could we talk about? What could we possibly talk about? So there's a lot that we already discussed because this Mets offseason is officially, I don't even want to call it ending because spring training starting tomorrow, like we said, but I feel like there's a lot of moves to be made.
Let's put it this way. Mets moves are not ending. The MLB off season's ending. There's a difference. You know, people are getting cooped up. And granted, I know that normally it isn't very common to see a blockbuster or a significant trade, if you will, to happen after the offseason going into spring training, but it's not the fact that's impossible either. You know, there are still many big name free agents, for instance, not even talking about the trade market, that are still free agents at the time of recording this. Jackie Bradley Jr., Odorizzi, Walker, these guys have to get signed soon as it is. You know, we're going to see upwards of 100+ free agents not even start spring training with a club and may very well not even partake in much spring training leading up to the season because of how long things are dragging out. And I think the DH uncertainty is really factoring into it still, which absolutely sucks. You know, it's funny because while I think the DH is definitely not happening, there are still people out there that have that belief that it very well could be the case, that it could be decided within the coming weeks before the season. And if so, then I want to give a big FU to a certain someone to for making this drag out so long. Because it's like, really? Like, if we had this, think about if we had a certainty with DH or no DH in November. The entire offseason would be different. The Mets roster right now would be different. Same thing if it was a month ago. It heavily factored into so many different things. And that, in my mind, is what's most frustrating about this offseason that we've seen. With the Mets being interested in all these players, that's fun and all. Even with them not landing all of them, that doesn't frustrate me nearly as much as this DH uncertainty, because that is what goes into the Mets showing interest in all these different options. They wouldn't have to weigh as many options if they didn't know for a fact if something is going to be one way or the other.
Yeah, it's crazy how the MLBPA announced, all the rules, including no universal DH. But now we're hearing that they might actually have a DH. So make up your mind. It's going to determine offseason for the National League. The Mets are going to sign certain players if there's a DH or not. So for them to still be up in the air, it's inexcusable. But whatever. I think we'll adjust and be good. So the next topic, I want it to be about the live chat. So it's going to be a Mets Q&A. So anybody in the chat want to ask Tyler and I any questions, make sure to send it in, and we'll try to get to as many questions, anything you want Mets related. Sure. Let's see it. So any question you see in the chat that you want to answer, let me know that you see.
Who says there might be a DH? Well, I know, just for instance, the most recent article I've seen about uncertainty was through Jim Duquette of SNY, stating what they expect the roster to look like for the season for the Mets. This was prior to Pilar signing with the Mets, but they had JBJ and Odorizzi in there. And they had JBJ because the Mets have been connected with him up until the Pilar signing, at least. And that with the belief that a DH, it would still feel hard-pressed to believe that a deal doesn't get done in the coming weeks before the season. There have been numerous reports from others as well since then, but I'm just referencing that recent article from yesterday in particular.
All right. Who will the Mets All-Stars be? I love this question. This is my favorite. I always love predicting the future. All-Stars. All right, All-Stars, we all know who the easy one is. The GOAT, the greatest player in the game right now at the pitcher position, Jacob deGrom. Yeah. Jacob deGrom, Michael Conforto, Francisco Lindor. See, I don't want to just name everyone. I think that's the reasonable three. I'm not going to go past that because I don't want to say like everybody else. So those are my three. What's yours?
Okay, Jacob deGrom, Pete Alonso.
Okay, I love that. I want to include Pete, but I didn't want to get a little overboard. But I'll let you.
Again, let's put it this way: if there's no DH and the guys are starting how we think they're going to be, it's going to be Jacob deGrom, Pete Alonso. And again, just because it's an all-star doesn't mean that it's a starting all-star. It could be a first or a second team. Take that into account. These guys could be an all-star, but are like off the bench, for instance. So you have deGrom, Alonso. Conforto, in my mind, might get snubbed, which will piss me off, but Lindor should get it. Dom very well could become an all-star this year, should he be in the lineup and playing basically every day, even if he's coming out constantly as a defensive replacement. If the DH is in play and Dom is going to be either at first or DH, then forget it. He should have a monster year from everything we're seeing. Outside of that, I think that one of Stroman or Carrasco could make a good case. They really could. I expect one of them to have a really strong year at least. And in the bullpen, Diaz, if he gets consistent, is a guy that you should always think about as a possibility. Him or Lugo, even with Lugo coming back from injury, as long as he's not out too long, could be a possibility. But yeah, no, I would say like guys I really think have a strong chance are definitely deGrom, Alonso, Lindor, Conforto, and Dom. Those guys, as long as everything basically goes right, how we expect them to play, and if they are utilized properly, they should all be all-stars, or at least heavy all-star considerations.
Yeah, and we also have two former all-stars on the team that we didn't even mention. Jeff McNeil.
Oh, what the hell? Yeah, what are we doing? I knew something felt weird. Add McNeil to the list.
And James McCann, because he was an all-star catcher for the White Sox.
Yeah, I know. McCann's another great. McCann very well could be in that running too. Again, the Mets have the potential to have a all-star lineup for almost all of their position players to start the season. They're starting position players. We're talking at least half. That's exciting. It really is.
Are you kidding me? Like all these people we're naming are potential all-stars. Like,
I know.
First of all, they've been all-stars. deGrom, been an all-star. Pete Alonso, been an all-star. Jeff McNeil, been an all-star. Michael Conforto, he's been an all-star. James McCann, he's been an all-star. I'm assuming Edwin Diaz was an all-star during that crazy year on the Mariners. I don't know if he was, but whatever. That's five guys. that was already all-stars. That's pretty. Oh, and Francisco Lindor. I forgot he's even on the Mets. What the hell? That's 6 people that were already all-stars. So let's see it. Let's see. Any other questions?
Yeah, no. Yeah, let's look at more questions, shall we? Let's see here. If DH is announced for NL, Mets should sign JBJ. I mean, they very well could. That would just make them deeper beyond belief. It just feels more unlikely now than ever. Now with Pilar, it's like it's a wait and see situation right now. It really is.
Facts. I agree.
SG Music, what's up, buddy?
Betances and Familia too were all stars.
Yeah, they won't be this year though.
Yeah, but they were. So we got like 8 former all stars. Let's go.
Are we going to be streaming the Mets first game? As long as I'm not in attendance, yeah, probably. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to be looking to stream. Whether that's a collaboration, I'm down to do that, but we haven't even discussed that yet. So we're definitely going to be interested in doing that for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
This is a good one. Will Pete hit 50 bombs? You know what's crazy? Last year, Pete Alonso had a down year, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was on pace for 40-plus homers.
I know. He was on pace for like 43 to 47. Not bad.
Then yes, will Pete hit 50? Yeah. What did he hit? 53 his rookie season?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Bro.
I mean, Pete, I have a feeling that Pete will have a strong chance of hitting 50 because, again, when you look at how he was utilized in 2019, like, he's going to still see, like, good pitches. Like, this team just got so much deeper offensively overall this year. Yes, Pete is always going to be a threat, so you're going to go hard at him. You're going to try to attack him or go down and away. But, yeah, awesome. Love to see it. That Alonso card right there.
I can't. It's not focusing. This is a special card because this is his first career home run in Miami, and it was on my birthday. So
yeah, I watched that game. That was awesome.
April 1st. So I'm like, yo, I saw this for $10. And let's read the back of it. Shortly after the New York Mets took a 4-3 lead in the 9th inning, Pete Alonso launched a 444-foot blast to dead center field to give the team a comfortable 7-3 lead. Alonso has torn up MLB pitching so far in the 2019 season, batting .412 with a home run and 6 runs batted in. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, no, that was a great moment. I was at Pete's first home run in Citi Field. Word. So, yeah, no, good stuff.
And then I got this one as well, which is the home run derby card.
Oh, yeah, awesome. Yeah, such a good moment, dude. Seriously.
I was going wild during that game.
Oh, I was jumping in my living room. I was going nuts.
I felt like we won the World Series.
That's the closest thing to a World Series we're going to get right now. I agree. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Right. So, more questions. I'm just looking through here. Let's see here. Who's likely to play third base for the Mets? I mean, we kind of already addressed it, but as of right now, it's still going to be JD unless they trade for someone. So it's going to be JD if they don't make any more moves. But if they do make moves, then obviously it's not going to be JD. It very well could be a Suarez, for instance. I'm not going to say Brian is completely off the table. I know what Hoyer said, but I think anything is still on the table at the end of the day. I would say that Brian's just more unlikely, if anything, from what we saw. Take that as you will. Yeah. Suarez still feels like a possibility to me amongst some other options out there. Looking at more here.
I got one right here. Jeff McNeil will hit 30 home runs this season.
Oh,
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think Jeff McNeil is, first of all, home runs is not a thing you want. Obviously, home runs are phenomenal, but that's not the greatest stat in the world to look at. Jeff McNeil is not a power hitter. He's a contact hitter. He can spray the ball all over the field, and he is a batting champion waiting to happen. He's a 350 batting average, That's obviously ridiculous, 350, but he has the potential to do it if he's consistent. I think Jeff McNeil will get around 23 plus, guaranteed 23 plus if he's healthy, and I think he'll bat way over 300. And I feel like he's more valuable at the plate with contact than home runs.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, what we've seen with McNeil at least is if he can try to bounce and naturally the home runs just come as he's building more bulk in the off seasons, that's perfectly fine. Me personally, I would much prefer a McNeil that's pushing upwards of 20 bombs, who's batting upwards of 320, versus him going for 30 bombs and dropping down to say a 280 average, just as an example. that it's guys like McNeil that help out round out this roster so much because they have guys that can take on more of the slugging aspect. So
Yeah, man, he's a pure hitter.
If he hits 30 bombs, but I think he'll hit more in the 20 range.
Yeah, I agree. Mets Media, do you collect baseball cards? I actually do not. Those are the only 2 baseball cards I have. I don't know. I should probably do it because I really enjoy these cards, but I should get on it. I wish I was in the grind of collecting cards because they're an investment.
Yeah.
Let's see. Hey, Richie, do you think the universal DH has a chance of happening? Right now, it's no, but there's definitely speculation out there that it's not official. You want to touch on that again, Tyler?
Yeah, I would say the exact same thing. It feels unlikely right now, but I think that's just something we're going to play it week to week and hope that, if something gets official, great. If it happens right before the season, so be it. I could be mad about it all I want that I took that long, but at the end of the day, I will still be happy if the Mets get it. But it does feel unlikely right now still.
Will DeGrom win 20 games this year? Man, he could. It's not even about DeGrom. It's about the players around him if he can win 20 games.
Yeah.
His 2 Cy Young Award winning seasons, if you go back and you look at it, I saw this crazy mind-blowing stat where it's like if the Mets scored 2 runs every time DeGrom pitched, he would have 20. He would have been like 30-0 or something like that. No, that was like with 4 runs. If they scored 4 runs every time DeGrom pitched, DeGrom would have had 30 wins. If they scored 3 runs, he would have had 25 wins. If they scored 2 runs, he would have had 20 wins. So the answer to this question is: can the Mets hit when DeGrom is pitching, and can the Mets bullpen finish out a spectacular gem from DeGrom? So that's been his problem. It's one of the most frustrating things about being a Mets fan in the recent years is watching Jacob DeGrom pitch for 7 innings, give up 1 run, and he gets a no decision.
I think the bullpen is going to be more of the question mark than it will be the hitting. I think DeGrom is very much going to get the kind of hits that he's hoping for in those key games. Yeah,
I agree. He's going to get this run support. You're right, especially with Lugo out, especially early on in the season. Oh, no. I guess DeGrom's got to pitch 9 innings. My dad always says, he's like, I don't know what happened to sports, but I remember back in my day, Tom Seaver would be pitching all 9 innings, like with ease. Like no pitch count, no worry. You don't have to take him out, no fatigue. He pitches all 8, and then the closer comes in. Or sometimes he's a completed game with ease. But that's the game back then. It evolved into different. I wish DeGrom could pitch 9 every night, but that would be great.
Yeah, no, it would. It's just unreal. If you want to do that, fine, but you're not going to get longevity with how players are developed nowadays.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy how the game was back then, where that wasn't even an issue. How did their arm not fall off? Yeah,
their routines and health were just so much different, though. Like it just that everything was different back then. It wasn't just the pitchers; it was the hitters. You know, if a guy did that if the guy was going deep in every single game nowadays, he would probably get caught more often than not.
Facts. I agree. I saw a question right here. Who do you fear more, the Braves or the Padres? I think my answer is the Braves because they're a division rival. Yeah, and they've won the division the past 2 years.
Yeah, I agree. The Braves are definitely the team you fear most because, yes, Padres are going to be an issue, but Padres are a good issue to have because it means you're probably matching up with them in the playoffs per se, versus you with the Braves, you're going to have to deal with them during the season more often than not. So Braves are the team to beat in this division. The Mets need to topple them. But also, if the Mets overcome the Braves, the Mets could very well avoid matching up against the Padres, for instance, if, say, the wild card game ends up being the Braves and the Padres. If the Mets don't win the division, they could very well match up with the Padres or another team of that some sort in a wild card game versus them winning the division. So,
yeah, and then we also have to worry about the Giants of not the San Francisco Giants, but the Dodgers.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And then there's also always every year in baseball, there's one team that's out of nowhere really good. That's the game of baseball that I love. It's not like basketball where it's like the same teams are really good every year. Baseball is so different where each year there's always a team that is somehow amazing. So I feel like keep that in consideration.
I agree.
Why do you think the Mets signed Pilar?
Why do I think they signed Pilar? Well, we went over it, but in a nutshell, the Mets signed Pilar for more outfield depth. Pilar is their best defensive outfielder now on the squad outside of Conforto, which is telling of just how much they lack defensive help there, even with Pilar not being much past an average defender at this point in his career. So
this is a good one.
Great as a righty hitter.
I agree. Well, Pete Alonso bounced back after sophomore slump. And see, like we just touched on Pete Alonso earlier, and it's funny because his sophomore slump was on pace for 43 homers. And Pete Alonso's a slugger. He's not a guy that's going to be hitting for average. He's never going to bat 300 in his life, in my opinion. He's a slugger, and that's okay. I mean, a guy that's going to bat 4 or 5 in the lineup, we don't need him to be on base. We don't need him to be doing that. We need him to swing for the fences and have a high slugging percentage, getting, extra base hits. I think it's a no-brainer. I think Pete Alonso has what it takes mentally to push through it. That's the biggest factor. I've always said it on all my channels, that in sports and anything in life, mentality and work ethic and dealing with adversity is what makes a great player. And for Pete Alonso to go through an adjustment in his sophomore year, and he was not lighting up the league like it was his rookie season, it kind of had an awakening process for Pete Alonso. And I guarantee all this whole offseason, he's been working relentlessly, tirelessly on fixing his swing, because he definitely needs to have more discipline at the plate. He swings at really bad pitches, and that was his problem last year. Struck out way too much. I think that Pete Alonso's mentality and his ability to deal with adversity is going to push through the sophomore slump that he had. So I think he's going to bounce back. What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, no, I do. I don't even think it's like, it's funny because people are thinking about Pete maybe as the biggest comeback player of the year. But again, as you just alluded to, I don't think there's too much of a comeback he needs to do. He just needs to focus on his hand-eye a little bit more. Not get caught really striking out as much as he did in that short period of time. If he can get up, if he can just be a 250 average, that'll do wonders for the Mets with what they'll be able to prioritize with his overall bat. So, you're not looking for a 300 average, as you said. 280 would be amazing, but 250 or up should be more than enough for Pete to hit upwards of 40 to 50 bombs.
This is a good question. Would you rather have Castillo or Chapman on the 2021 Mets?
Oh,
I know my answer. What about you?
Oh, Jesus. I don't want to be backed in a corner with that kind of question, because that, man. Both. Yeah, I know the meme of the little girls, like, why not both? That's literally how I feel right now. Yeah, I mean, good question. I honestly, I would have to say,
You see, honestly, my
heart tells Chapman.
Me, yeah, that's what I said. But then again, if you look at where this team is constructed, what will help the team to win a World Series? Castillo. Because we need extra stud pitcher in that lineup. I mean, the rotation. We have all the offense, and we know that we kept saying that JD's a liability defensively, third base. But I think that this is such a tough question. It really is. Chapman is just a guy that I would love because his energy, and he's a franchise third baseman. But Castillo matched up with DeGrom, and he could be that guy that we thought Trevor Bauer would be huge. So I think that Castillo is the right answer for the current outlook of the 2021 Mets.
That's fair. I mean, you can make an argument this way, okay? If you look at the starting pitchers that'll be available, say, free agency for next year, they don't match up to the way infielders do for guys that could potentially play third. So if we're basing things off of what the current market is going to hold over this next year, that is a fair argument. Again, I would be ecstatic with either one of them. I just have a soft spot for Chapman because I feel like nothing will get through that left side defense in the infield, truly. But, Castillo is an ace. He really is. So to have a guy like him who's on a controllable contract for numerous years, I wouldn't be against it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think pitching wins World Series, and the Mets have the best pitcher in the league. So it's all hypothetical, so I don't want to think about it because it's not happening realistically. What blockbuster move is most likely in the next coming weeks?
That's a good question. I'm left wondering the same thing. I think at this point, from what we're currently seeing, it feels like starting pitcher is unlikely. Again, we've all had basically in the back of our minds that, the Mets did the Lindor and Carrasco trade without anyone knowing about it. So why wouldn't it would make sense for them to do the same thing from the reports that we have seen. Could they do a deal that simply we don't know about? They very well could. They've definitely been amazing this offseason with being hush-hush on their deals. And since Jared Porter has departed as well, we have heard nothing with the Mets and who they would acquire outside of Almora Jr. that they were originally connected to over a month ago. Between the Clearly trade now, Pilar, nothing was there with Pilar at all. Another guy. Yeah, I would say, honestly, if you're looking at a blockbuster, the Reds have just looked like an ideal fit for numerous reasons. And that's why Suarez, in my mind, could be the most realistic option if Ryan is, in fact, off the table. Again, I think that every player is a price at the end of the day, but the Mets aren't going to act stupid either. The Mets aren't going to give up a top prospect for just Brian. So if Hendricks is truly unavailable, or if he is available and they're asking for an arm and a leg, the Mets probably aren't going to do it. So they're going to be smart. They're going to make a blockbuster if they feel it's truly going to benefit this team right now. And in my mind, the Reds have looked like a good fit. They're the first team since the Lindor deal that have been connected with the Mets in regards to doing some type of blockbuster again over a month ago now.
Yeah, man. It's like so hypothetical at this point where we don't know what's happening. Like you said, the Francisco Lindor trade came out of absolutely nowhere. So we do not know. I wish we can call up Sandy and ask him. Be like, hey, yo, what's good? Like, what, you guys trade for somebody or not? Because we're trying to like make content here. We want to be inside on the source. We want to be a source. Imagine that. That'd be sick.
It's funny when, like, I don't know if you've listened to like Karn and Roberts at all, but every single time that they've had Sandy on, Evan always asks Sandy like detailed questions, like shit that he knows damn well Sandy isn't going to answer, like about a specific player. He's like, I know that you're really not going to like give us much hints, but is this true? This statement about, the Mets being interested in this exact player, like how the Mets acquired on him. Are they going to deal away JD Davis? And then you see Sandy having to like stop, take a breather, make sure all of his thoughts are wrapped up so he doesn't slip up anything. I just find that funny as hell because you're never going to hear anything that isn't, as broad as day when it comes to Sandy and his remarks.
Yeah, I know. It's like the best with any, radio host interviewing a GM. It's like they want to know and they ask a question they know they're not allowed to answer, but they're going to ask it anyway. They always do that. It's so funny. I love it.
Exactly.
How will the Mets starting lineup and batting order look on opening day? This is a fun topic. We went over this topic last week, actually, on Mets Talk. I'm down to do it all over again. The Mets starting lineup, well, the rotation, we'll start with that. With Syndergaard, I guess.
Yeah. Why don't you just say without and then with? So if you do without, you can maybe make an assumption of the Mets acquiring a starting pitcher, and who would that be in there?
Yikes. Jacob deGrom, Marcus Stroman, Cookie, David Peterson, Syndergaard. But now without Syndergaard, then we're probably gonna have to bring somebody else in. And no, I don't think Syndergaard's the fifth starter. That wasn't in order. That was just off the top of my head. But who do you think that we could potentially get to replace Syndergaard for like a little temporary, or even, I don't know. I'm really high on David Peterson. I feel like he could be potentially a stud. I don't think he has ace qualities, but for a rookie last year, he showed me a lot, especially against righties.
Yeah, I think that Taijuan Walker is the most intriguing guy because the Mets have been in talks with him as of late, reportedly. It looks like it'll be him or Odorizzi through free agency. It's making me feel more and more unlikely that the Mets are going to acquire a starting pitcher through trade. As much as I would like to see them do that, that may also help them out, in dividends in the long run if they get a Taijuan Walker or Odorizzi. I think Walker's more likely. I have a feeling Odorizzi is going to go somewhere in the AL East. I think he's going to go, if he doesn't stay with the Twins, I think he's either going to Boston, the Jays, or the Rays. I think he's going to go to one of those three teams if he doesn't land with the Twins or the Mets. But in regards to Walker feels like it's the Jays or the Mets. I think both have a strong chance right now, as long as the Mets want to give up enough for him. And that way, if they don't do that, they also have a better chance of maybe landing a Suarez, for instance, or even if they still try for a Bryant, maybe not now, but during the season, whatever it would be at third base, if they still try to land a guy, because that way you're not tagging along a Sonny Gray or a Castillo, just a hypothetical, or a Hendricks, whoever it may be, or a Manaea, if you're thinking Chapman, right? If you're not connecting them, that makes the cost obviously far cheaper than what it originally was, because all these pitchers have years of control left on their contracts.
Yeah, man, I agree. And let's get into the batting order. So the batting order is very fun to speculate. And we're going to do hypothetically with no DH, because that's currently what it is now. And it's looking like the most likely scenario. You can make different arguments of who's leading off. I think that Brandon Nimmo makes the most sense because he's an on-base machine. So I would do Brandon Nimmo leading off, Jeff McNeil second, Michael Conforto 3, Pete Alonso 4, Dom Smith 5, 6, JD Davis.
You're forgetting Lindor. Backtrack.
Oh, wait,
you didn't say Lindor.
I keep forgetting that we have Francisco Lindor. Are you kidding me? I forgot about Lindor.
Go back in that.
Oh my gosh, that just tells you right there that it doesn't feel real that Lindor is a New York Met. Holy, that was awesome. I'm kind of happy I just messed up about that because that really just made me realize how good our team is. All right, retrack. First, Nimmo. Second, McNeil. Third, Lindor. Fourth, Conforto. Fifth, Pete Alonso. 6, Dom Smith. 7, JD. 8, McCann. 9, pitcher.
Okay.
You can make the argument of putting Nimmo at 9 and a pitcher at 8, and then that would look like either Lindor leading off or McNeil leading off. I think that could either be flipped around and then Lindor second, and then Conforto third, and then you guys know the rest. So what would your ideal lineup be?
I mean, it would basically be the same. I think, after I toyed with having Lindor in the 3 hole last time, I think I got critiqued a lot because maybe I could be wrong. I don't think Lindor actually is in the 3 hole often. It looks like he might be a 1 or a 2 or a 4 from what I'm seeing. Again, I could be wrong, so I have to break down all the situations he's been in. But if that's the case, I'll just stick with for now. I think Lindor would make sense at 3, but if he's not going to be at 3, then maybe having Nimmo at 1. Then you would have maybe Lindor at 2, 3 McNeil, even though you're really lefty heavy to start out. 4, that's the idea where you're thinking maybe Conforto, but that's really lefty heavy. So maybe you throw Pete in there at 4 and Conforto at 5. And then 6 could be Dom, 7 JD, and then 8 possibly being who else am I forgetting? What's that?
James
I thought
McCann.
I said McCann already. No? Okay.
Where'd you have him?
Then maybe at 8 I would have the pitcher and then 9 McCann.
Okay. That's fire.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I mean, this lineup's so flexible. I like Lindor. 1, 2, or 3 because he's a switch hitter and he's just going to be a dog. So
yeah,
he's going to be a dog. I love speculating lineups. Wow, we got 175 people watching and 98 likes. Who wants to be the 100th like? Who wants
hit that
to do
like button, guys? Smash
if we
it.
can get this over 100 likes, that would mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much for all the support. Mets fans are the best fans in baseball. That is
100%.
factual.
Appreciate y'all.
Factual. And we're up. We're already over 100 likes. Thank you guys so much. You guys are the best. It means a lot. It means the world. So let's continue this awesome Mets Q&A because this is very, very fun.
And I also just want to say, people are saying Wardy, Lindor is a switch hitter. I know Lindor is a switch hitter. I'm just stating how in a lot of situations you may very well see Lindor, say, batting lefty because of the fact that when it comes to starters, you're ultimately going to see more righty starters throughout the season than you are lefty. So that's my point. I know that Lindor is a switch hitter. But when you have him up, if say your first 4 is, in any order of Nimmo, McNeil, Conforto, Lindor, you're going to see more straight your top 4 being lefties than you will Lindor being a righty. That's just inevitable. That's more than likely going to be the case.
Facts. This is another good lineup. McNeil leading off, Lindor, Conforto, Alonso, Dom, JD, McCann, pitcher, Nimmo. That's fire. I like it, Josh.
Yeah, Nimmo in the 9 hole is solid too. Really is. I'm not against that at all.
If Nimmo's if the pitcher is the last out, and then Nimmo's the leadoff for the rest of the time,
I think the only thing that I would maybe say is maybe not making the top 4 a little too, assuming Nimmo would be in there, not too top heavy when it comes to speed. Maybe taking one of those guys and moving them more into the 5 or the 6. Or even the 7, just so because when you get to say Alonso, Dom, JD, McCann, you don't have nearly as much speed in that part of the order as you do in the top 4. Should Nimmo be in there? So that's it. Again, they're going to be toying with all different lineups throughout the season. This isn't even including the bench, might I add. So I just want to throw that out there because that's just one thing that the Mets need to make sure that they're smart about as well.
Yeah, of course, I agree.
Oh, and here's another comment too. From Miss K. Why don't you answer that? I think that's a good question.
Do you guys rather have one, a trade for a star third baseman, or keep JD at third and sign Odorizzi or Walker and Rosenhall and not give up prospects? There we go. That's a very good question.
I mean, if the thing is, I don't feel that the Mets would be in a corner where they can only do one over the other. But if you're asking what is our genuine, like what we would personally prefer, if it's either don't get a third baseman and in return you get all these free agents, or you just get a third baseman, that's kind of, in my mind, that's tough, because the free agents, you're addressing more holes immediately than you are strictly just a third baseman. So,
Yeah,
but who's the third baseman going to be?
Yeah, I think the answer should be you keep JD and you sign the players because, one third baseman's not going to win you a World Series. We need to have depth around this team and plug in holes all over the place. So I feel like that's also a good move because, again, we're not giving up any prospects. So we're trying to build a sustainable winner here. So I think that's my answer, even though it's a tough choice because I would love to trade for a star third baseman because star power also is a very good thing in this league.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right.
Let's see. Any other questions you see?
What's your trade proposal for Jose Ramirez? So that's a good question. I talked about Jose before. I did a video on him. I'm sure you guys saw over the past month. Ramirez, from what I remember, what I made that deal around, I'm pretty sure that I had Mauricio a part of that deal. I also thought that I had JD a part of it for the third base replacement from Cleveland. I'm pretty sure that I toyed with the idea of Nimmo, as long as that they have a replacement out there. And you're also looking at possibly another significant prospect as well. Like Ramirez would not come cheap at all. He's a guy you're giving up numerous significant assets for because he has multiple years of control left still on his contract.
Yeah, man, it's going to be wild. I know that you made a whole video on it to break it down, so we'll see.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about what I said in it because I've talked about like 15 different players since then, I feel like.
Yeah. What's the Mets record in April? I think the Mets record is do you hear me okay? Because I don't know if my mic turned off.
Yeah, I hear you.
All right, good. How many games is in April? What, like 20 something? 20.
I can let you know right now. I'll let you know right now. No problem.
Hypothetically, say I guess like around 20 to 25 games or less.
Here, I'll tell you right now.
They don't really have a lot of off days in baseball.
In April, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. 25 games in April.
All right. 25 games, 25 wins. I'm just kidding. Yikes. I think that in April, definitely need to be at least 500. Mm-hmm. And that's being, realistic. Because I'm not going to sit here and say we'll be 20-5 because that's unrealistic. That's ridiculous. What do you think? I'm trying to think of a nice record that's realistic.
Well, from the schedule I'm looking at, you're seeing a lot of games against Philly, and you're seeing a lot of games against the Cubs. The Red Sox are in there towards the end too. The Nats and Miami. When I look at these, in my mind, the Mets should be able to go at least 18-7. 18-7. I just have that gut feeling could be a good number for them for their first month.
Oh, my camera just died.
Hold on no.
The camera is dead. All right, I'm going to switch to my ugly camera real quick while I change my battery.
No problem. Good thing that you have two different cameras, though. Like, that's smart.
Yeah. I mean, this is like the webcam on my MacBook, and then the other cameras, I got to put the battery in. So let's see. Is there another question you can talk about? Let's see. So everybody in the chat saying 17-8, 18-7, 15-10, 14-11, 25-0. Yeah, Steve. We think alike,
we don't want a Wayne streak. This last time the Mets went like past 11-0 to start a season, they had a horrendous year. That was what year was that? Gosh. Was that 2018? I think it might have been 2018.
Oh, I'll never forget that, man. I was at the games for that, and I'm like, we're going to the World Series 11-0. Are you kidding me? I don't remember when that was, but that was wild. All right. Let's see. Least favorite Met. Is this on the roster or not on the roster? Like,
Before we get there, I just want to say Elliot had a question that I know he asked a million times. I love you guys. Thank you so much, Elliot. What trade do you think is most realistic? I would say right now, most realistic, we're probably pivoting back more to the Reds than I would the Cubs or the A's. If we're going to base things off of reports, I would say the Reds.
Facts. Yeah. So who's your least favorite Met right now?
Least favorite Met right now?
Where did that question go? I can't find it.
Least favorite Met. All
right, switching the camera back.
Okay. I'm going to say in regards to overall play. I'm not going to say it in regards to, them as a person or anything like that, because I don't have ill will against any player, obviously. Just in regards to play, when I'm thinking about the team currently, Familia to an extent. Familia definitely worries me. Not that I don't want to see him succeed or anything. I have a lot of question marks with him. Should he be with the team to start the season? So Familia is probably up there. But Tansis, I'm going to give a somewhat of a leash to, just because I have no clue what role, if any, he's going to have with the Mets going into the season. If he's going to be dealt or not, I don't know.
My least favorite Met, probably just because I'm just still stuck on this terrible trade, is Edwin Diaz. Just because I've hoped that he could bounce back, and he had a very underrated season last year. I'm not saying that his production was terrible, but every time I see Edwin Diaz blow a save, I just think of Jarrett Kelenic, and I'm like, Brody. So
I know.
That's my answer.
I feel you.
Let's see. What position do you think the Mets need to fix the most? The bullpen.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'd say the bullpen. Yeah. With Lugo out, it's even more of a priority. The Mets can get away right now with having their fifth starter, one of Lucchesi or Yamamoto, in my mind, or even, doing some type of platoon between both going for 3 innings versus them not having a strong bullpen. Their bullpen still has question marks. It really does. So I can say bullpen's probably biggest priority right now, because at the end of the day, that's prioritizing defense. You're trying to prevent runs at the end of the day, whether it's between pitching or, being a good defender as a position player. They're both going hand with each other.
Yeah, I agree. And I also want to mention Robinson Cano is probably up there as my least favorite Mets, because
he's never going to play a game for the Mets again. That's why I'm not even considering him.
Yeah, it's just why do we just trade for a guy that we pay $30 million a year when he's 37 years old and he still does drugs?
Well, you know why, right?
Why? Why?
Because Brody was his agent. He got him that contract with Seattle. That's why. He literally negotiated that contract.
Thanks, Brody. Thank you, bro. Brody, thank you. Would you rather the Mets? I don't know about that question. This is a good question. Let's LFGM, Juan. You got that right, baby. You got to believe. The Mets. Also, very good news that we'll be able to actually attend games, because New York is opening fans to attend stadiums for the first time, I think February 23rd. So Knicks fans and Rangers fans can finally go to the Garden, and that's perfect timing for the Mets games.
Yep.
Because we will be going there. And I don't know if you know this answer, but on StubHub, you can buy Mets tickets with ease. Is that do we even know the restrictions yet? How many people are allowed? How are their tickets being available so far? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, people just hypotheticals. There's a belief that in regards to the tickets, that it means that when you acquire the tickets, that they're only selling a certain amount. Once they're gone, they're gone. They very well could have a limitation on tickets right now, or they're still selling tickets how they normally would, and then they're going to just basically refund people. Either go it by whoever bought the tickets first. They're probably going to give season ticket holders first grabs, which only makes sense. So I think that is going to factor into things. I'm not sure. I really hope that I have a chance to go to games. I fully intend, as soon as I get that next, the YouTube paycheck, that I'm going to start buying tickets. I just really hope that I don't have to get them all refunded. It's still a question mark though right now. You can buy tickets. I just don't know exactly how limited they are. Because if you say go through the store for opening day against the Marlins at home, it'll tell you that there's no tickets available. But obviously, if you go through like SeatGeek or something, there's still tickets available just for higher price. So take that as you will. It's still something that is up in the air.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked how cheap they were. I expected them to be really expensive because it's only 10% capacity. Like, I'm going to look it up real quick right now on StubHub. I also cannot even find a Knicks ticket for the life of me because
that's probably all going to go to season ticket holders first. Same thing with the Rangers.
It's unfortunate because the Knicks are good.
I know, right? It's like you actually want to
go. The home opener's a little pricey, but the game after that, like their second game at home,
it's nothing.
The Marlins from $20.
Yeah, no, you can be on first level, on either home or away side, only like 10 rows back, and like $50 each. It's nothing. That's what I'm kind of eyeing.
I expected it to be a little more pricey since it's limited, but I was wrong.
Yeah. Again, we'll see. I don't know how many more tickets are going to be bought within a week from now when I actually start to look at tickets to buy. So hopefully not too much because I really want to go. But I think that people who are season ticket holders will automatically have first dibs.
Yeah, it's true. I want to be a season ticket holder eventually. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Well, if I'm ever actually living in the area, then that's something that would be like, okay, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, for sure. And we're also in the future, guys. Wardy and I are thinking about collabing and going to a game together and vlogging it together and bringing you guys with us. And anybody that's at the game, we can meet you guys. So, it's a good thing that we're allowed to go to games because I've never had a YouTube channel where I'm allowed to go to games since my Jets. I started my Jets channel before last season, and we couldn't go to any games. And I'm excited because I've never been able to vlog, and I've always wanted to vlog an entire experience going to a game. So that's really exciting because that's a whole different dimension of content that we could bring you guys, bringing us along. For the people that are not living in New York and you can't go to games, we can probably bring it to life for you guys. I live very close to the Citi Field. I literally live 20 minutes away. So I'm going to be at a lot of games. And expect a lot of content from Wardy and I. He might even come by and stay at my crib, but we can make a lot of content here all about the Mets.
No, I really hope we can get that figured out because, again, I plan on going to a lot of games this year. I really do. I definitely plan to I'll probably end up going to more games in Philly than I will New York just because of the cost reasons, because I'm closer to Philly. I'm pretty right in the middle between the both in regards to the stadiums, but I intend on basically going to every Philly game as long as I'm able to. And next thing on the shopping list is to get an actual camera to vlog. So that way I can make vlog. You'll probably do the same thing if we do it together, make vlogs for the games, interact with people that are actually our subscribers. We'll let them know beforehand that we're going to the game. We'll meet up at the game, all that fun stuff. Even if it's during COVID still, if we have our masks on or whatever, doesn't change the fact we're still going to have a great time. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I'm just so excited to experience like a live sporting event. It's been way too long.
I know.
The last time I went to any type of game was the Knicks game last year, like February. And little did I know that was the last Knicks game I've ever been. Little did I know that a pandemic was on the way, and that was my last live sporting event for a long time. I wish I appreciated it a little more. But let's see. Any other questions in the chat that you think? Screw bench depth. We need pitching depth desperately. This is
why not
true.
Both? Why not both, William?
I was saying it's very true that we do need pitching depth desperately, but at the same time, we need bench depth as well. So you cannot fault them for going all in on the bench depth, right?
Yeah.
That's fire. I think that this is the time where they're going to start doing some pitching depth in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned.
It's going to be awesome.
Does anybody in the chat want to be my moderator? Because I don't have any set up right now. I'm down. Anybody? Who should I trust, Tyler?
I mean, I know Juan is a moderator on my channel.
Is he?
Yeah.
All right, Juan, I'm going to give you the moderator duties on Mets Media. I trust you because I do not have a moderator on here just yet, and I need one. There you go. I think that's good. Ryan, you're very loyal. You're on my Knicks channel. You're all over the place. Ryan, I'm going to give you the moderator duties as well.
Yeah, just don't toss it out too much because like I'm actually going to be deleting some more off my channel because people lie all the time. And I've had numerous times in my streams where people will just end up spamming, deleting comments until I take them off as a moderator because they'll act nice at first and then they'll wait for you to mod them. And then they'll
I know.
snap on you. So yeah, make sure that you have
so Juan and Ryan, you guys are my first 2 moderators, but I'm watching you guys. Don't be deleting any content unless I tell you. Let's see. All right, and my boy Scott. I didn't realize Scott was in here. That's my buddy that I know personally. So I trust you, Scott. All right, so we're going to finish off the stream in the next 15 minutes. We're going to cap it at 2 hours. So to finish off the stream, make sure you guys give us any questions, man. Any other questions? This is a good one. Breakout player of the year. Mine is Lucky, but I believe he will be the biggest surprise out of the bullpen. He's going to add speed, being a starter in the So what do you think is going to be the breakout player of the year?
Breakout player of the year for the Mets. Breakout player in the sense of not really having proved their worth with the team yet.
Yeah.
Okay. In that situation, then, I probably want to go with. I think Peterson might be. I think Peterson might have a huge year for the Mets if he's in the rotation all year long because he's going to be given every opportunity to succeed, and he's going to have a phenomenal defensive catcher in front of him in McCann and Nito, who's also another very solid defensive catcher. You know, the Mets don't have worries defensively behind the plate anymore.
Yeah. Scott says, let's go over the lineup. Scott, you're a little too late, buddy. We spent like 20 minutes on the lineup. So rewind a couple half hours later ago. I don't know when that was, but we went over the lineup. I know that's your favorite thing to do, Scott, is to go over the lineup. So go check that out.
Yeah, you know, I get asked lineup predictions all the time, but I'm constantly just telling people to just wait because I don't want to make a video and then the next day we have another move that drastically changes the lineup or something. You know, I have to be on that edge because of how this offseason has been. So as we get more into spring training is where it's like, okay, we'll start doing more of the thorough predictions.
My breakout player of the year, I don't know if you can consider a breakout because I don't know. He definitely was not great last year, as we all know. Pete Alonso, I think he's going to solidify himself as one of the best first basemen in the MLB.
Okay.
And that carries right into, Scott, we already did the rotation setup as well. Scott, come on, you're slacking. You got here a little too late, buddy. Bold prediction. I love these, the bold predictions, because you can be as bold as you want and nobody can call you delusional because it's supposed to be a bold prediction. So my bold prediction, Jacob deGrom, 20-plus wins. It's not that bold because it's possible. I feel like it's more about, it's not like I mentioned earlier, we went over this already. It's not about deGrom's performance. It's about the offense. What's your bold prediction?
Okay. My bold prediction will be Lindor 40 bombs.
That's a bold one, and I'm down for that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's also possible.
Yeah.
It's a realistically bold one.
Yeah. And if it doesn't happen, I'm not going to be upset about it. It's like, okay, I went for a bold prediction, so there you go.
Yeah, I mean, bold predictions are not supposed to hit, and if they do hit, then you're like, you're a beast.
Yeah.
All right, Scott asks, Syndergaard ERA under 4. He's very up and down, Syndergaard, and he's coming off Tommy John. So, I mean, he better be under 4 because if it's not, then we got a problem. That means he's walking next year. This is his contract year for Syndergaard, and if it's not under 4, like I said, I don't think he has a future with his team, especially that he has to walk.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you to an extent. I feel hard pressed for the Mets to let Syndergaard walk, even if he doesn't necessarily do phenomenal coming back from Tommy John. I think he needs to definitely try to prove his worth, and it's tough to try to do that in a year where you're coming off of such a significant injury. You know, we're only saying this because it's his contract year, and in my mind, I have a feeling that as long as he's at least decent, and you see that there's hope there, that he maybe starts to find his stride really in the late, towards the end of the year, that he would sign a short-term deal to be extended with the Mets, and then you worry about a long-term extension that after that following year.
Bold prediction: Mets will win. Mets will win 100 games. This is the bold predictions that I love because it's possible, but it's not at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, if it happens, that'd be tremendous. But I'm not going to bet the farm on it. I'm going to wait and see.
Like I'm okay with 95 wins. I'm down with 90 wins.
Yeah.
Anything that gets us. I kind of want to win the division. I kind of want to get a little ambitious here because the Braves are tough. We're at a very tough NL East, but we will see, man.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think the Mets have as strong of a shot at winning the division as ever. But if they do anything else significant before the season starts, it's only going to benefit them.
True. Bold prediction: JD Davis plays third and excels. I don't think this is too bold because I think it will happen if he plays. I think he's going to thrive at the plate. The question is his defense.
Repeat
bullpen,
that. I apologize.
No, yeah, he just said bold prediction. JD Davis plays third base and excels.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if this means he excels defensively or just him in the lineup every day, but I think he's going to excel offensively whether he starts or not. His only problem is defense, but hopefully he can turn it around.
That's
and this
probably
is a
the
good
biggest
one.
bold take, I would say. If not even just Nimmo, but if JD starts and somehow, some way, actually like becomes at least an average defender, then we're cooking. You know, that's all I can hope for if he's going to start. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be upset if he's starting opening day. I will just be surprised because of what the Mets have been saying all this offseason. And I don't think that's wrong for me to feel that way.
So we went over all the lineups, but we did not go over the bullpen in detail. Would you do the honors and give us the bullpen breakdown? Or is that too much for you?
All right. Bullpen's a lot because you're looking at between 7 and 8 arms, give or take. So I was actually writing it down on my phone. So I'll pull it up right here. When I'm thinking about the bullpen right now, other guys that are still with the team, you have Familia Betances, assuming they aren't dealt, even though that one of them very well could be at least. You're looking at a Loop that they acquired, Aaron Loop, Diaz, Miguel Castro that a lot of people forget about that the Mets traded for at the deadline last season from the Orioles. Trevor May, Gazelman, and at that point we're at 3. We are at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So give or take, if you throw one more arm in there, maybe you could see a Lucchesi being in a platoon where you could have him in the bullpen and then toy with him as maybe a long arm where you could have him as a starter for games, depending on how they have the rotation. Lucchesi and Yamamoto are interesting. I think Yamamoto might start the year in AAA. Lucchesi is a guy that I think might actually have, if he's willing at least, to be coming in the bullpen. And then maybe gradually being a starter again. He's a big question mark for me. But I think Sam McWilliams is a dark horse to make the bullpen for the Mets. Him and Drew Smith are two guys that stand out to me. Keep your eyes out for one of Drew Smith and Sam McWilliams. The Mets picked up McWilliams this offseason, and they gave a Double-A pitcher a major league contract. And if you're wondering why, I highly recommend you do some research on him. The Mets are trying to go like all analytics on this guy, and it's very interesting to see their viewpoint on him.
I think I don't know why this came in my head, but I could be so wrong. But is Jerry Blevins a Met again?
He is, but he's on a minor league deal.
Okay.
I don't think he'll be starting with the team.
Oh, okay. Because I thought he was, and I'm like, wait, no, he's not. Maybe he is, but okay, I was right. So he's in the minors. At least I was somewhat correct. Let's see. Any other questions that you see? Smash that like button. Thank you, Juan. Appreciate the support. Everyone, listen to Juan. If you guys did not smash that thumbs up button, please make sure you do so. We'd greatly appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate you.
All the support on the channel means the world to us.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate you guys all as always. And expect a video on my channel later tonight, guys. So if you guys were wondering, I should have a video up sometime this evening on my channel as well. So stay tuned. I'm not sure exactly what the topic will be yet, so I will get that figured out in due time.
Another bold prediction. Robert Gazelman is an elite reliever this year.
No.
That's very bold.
That's one where you almost have to sell me something. Like I need to see. That
sure hope so, Scott. Sure hope so. Thank you both for the great content. Thank you, Ray. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you, Ray. Appreciate you.
That's a nice profile picture. Let's see. Oh, this is a very bold prediction. Uh-oh, it's calling you out. Bold prediction, Diaz gets 50-plus saves, and Wardy is going to be eating his own words.
I'm not sure what words I'm eating. I would be all for Diaz getting 50-plus saves. I'm worried about him. I prefer him to be a setup guy right now than I would closer. But if the Mets don't do anything else, if they don't bring in a Rosenthal, for instance, then Diaz is probably your go-to guy as your closer. So, yeah, I don't know. The last thing I want is for any of the Mets to not have a good season. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's reasons to be concerned. But if they bring Rosenthal, then we could have a situation where they split time as closer this year. So watch out for that too.
Bold prediction, DeGrom and Stroman both pitch no-hitters. Well, I'll take a DeGrom no-hitter because we have not got one since Johan, and I've been waiting for it. DeGrom goes perfect for 5 innings, and it gives up a hit. And you guys realize how hard it is to get a no-hitter? Jeez.
Oh, I know.
We'll see. I saw something I want to talk about. Peterson's going to be sneaky good. I love David Peterson. Like I mentioned earlier on, for a rookie to be a lefty starting pitcher to come in here and play that well. Unfortunately, he went down with an injury, so we did not get to see him play a full year at the end. But he was so impressive to me. So impressive to me. Loved everything about it.
Yeah, I know. I really hope that if he's going to be, the 4th or 5th starter throughout the entire year, that he just thrives. That's all I can hope for.
Facts. Yeah, so we're coming up on 2 hours, so we're going to end off the stream pretty soon. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys have any other last questions, shoot them our way. Shoot them our way to give us a nice little send-off. If you guys want to give us any of your takes about the stream, anything you want to tell us before we go, please feel free to do so in the live chat. If you guys did not subscribe to Mets Media, please make sure you do so because that would mean the world to me. And also, Wardy's channel is down below in the description. Make sure you check out his channel because he's been grinding. Thank
you so much. Again, thank you all so much for being here. It really does mean a lot. I appreciate you all tremendously. Again, Richie, this was awesome. I really appreciate it. And I was a lot of fun answering all your guys' questions and stuff. I'm looking forward to next week's segment too, as spring training has begun. Hopefully we have some more, important news to discuss and really start to see how they're starting out in Port St. Lucie. And if we're going to see some battles really start to grind in spring training. I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, man, it's going to be a great time. Next week we'll be on Wardy's channel, so stay tuned for that. We're going to be live for a long time, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun because spring training is among us, which means baseball is among us. Let's play ball. The New York Mets, please be good because my New York Knicks look like they're good, turning the corner. So it would be so awesome to, in April, have the Mets playing well and the Knicks potentially continuing playing well. Who knows if they'll keep it up, but I sure hope so. I would love it. Any last words before we end the stream? That you got anything coming up on your channel?
No, yeah, just expect a video probably on the channel later today and more consistent content. It looks like this will be another eventful week for the Mets. I think this is definitely, crunch time now that spring training is coming up as soon as tomorrow where pitchers and catchers report. And then games will be picking up towards the end of the month. So really, really exciting. Just a lot of more consistent content. I expect the same with you as we inch closer to opening day.
Yeah, man. Opening day is going to be crazy. Opening day is on my birthday, so I'm thinking about doing a birthday stream. Who knows what will happen, but expect a lot of content here at Mets Media. I'm going to be pumping out player profiles very shortly, which will be a breakdown of each individual player on the New York Mets. I'm going to be breaking down their stats from last year, and I'll be predicting their stats next year and just give you their strengths and their weaknesses. This is a series I do on all of my channels, and I'm excited to launch my Mets Media player profiles because it's one of my favorite player profile videos to do. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of New York Mets Talk.
Make sure to subscribe to Richie, guys. Pointing this way. Make sure to subscribe to Richie, guys, if you haven't, all right? Great content here. Make sure to check out his Knicks, his Jets, and all of his other channels. He's doing great stuff. And if you haven't subscribed to me, if you're interested in checking out my Mets content, please feel free. It is in the description below, as always. Thank you all so much, guys. Richie, let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets, baby. You got to believe. Stay tuned. Shout out to everybody in the chat. You guys are awesome. And we'll catch you guys next week. Peace out, everybody.